Stranger hands girl, a teddy bear. What her father finds inside is terrifying. Adam stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, dark circles under his eyes betraying another restless night. The house felt too quiet these days, even with Lily's footsteps padding around upstairs. 6 months had passed since Sarah's death, but the silence still caught him off guard every morning. "Daddy, are we really going?" Lily's small voice carried down the hallway, a hint of excitement breaking through her usual reserve. "You bet we are, kiddo," he called back, trying to inject some enthusiasm into his voice. The carnival had rolled into town yesterday, its colorful banners and flashing lights visible from their kitchen window. Adam hadn't planned on going. Crowds weren't really his thing these days, but he'd caught Lily pressing her face against the glass, watching the Ferris wheel light up against the darkening sky. Before we can continue, if you love your family, subscribe to this channel to help up creating amazing stories. Now, let's continue. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen that spark of interest in her eyes. Since Sarah's passing, Lily had withdrawn into herself, speaking less, playing less, as if joy itself had become something foreign and frightening. Her therapist said it was normal, that grief manifested differently in children, but it broke Adam's heart to see his once bubbly 7-year-old so subdued. Getting ready took longer than it should have. Lily insisted on wearing her blue dress, Sarah's favorite, and Adam had to dig through 3 laundry baskets to find it. He helped her brush her hair, his fingers clumsy with the hair tie as he attempted a ponytail. Sarah had always handled this part. He could almost hear her gentle teasing about his lack of hairstyling skills. "There," he said, surveying his handiwork. The ponytail listed slightly to one side, but Lily didn't seem to mind. "Ready for an adventure?" Lily nodded, her hand automatically reaching for his as they headed to the car. The drive to the carnival grounds was short, but Adam could feel the tension building in his shoulders as they approached. The parking lot was packed, families streaming toward the entrance in cheerful clusters. He hadn't been in such a crowded place since the funeral. "Remember," he said as they walked toward the ticket booth, "stay close to me, okay?" "I know, Daddy," Lily replied, her grip on his hand tightening slightly. The familiar weight of her trust steadied him. The carnival was a sensory overload, the air thick with the smell of cotton candy and popcorn, carnival music competing with the screams from the rides, and the constant chatter of the crowd. Adam felt Lily press against his leg, momentarily overwhelmed, but then her eyes caught sight of something that made them widen. "Can we try that?" She pointed to a ring toss game, where dozens of colorful bottles glinted in the afternoon sun. "Sure thing, sweetheart." Adam steered them toward the booth, pulling out his wallet. The game operator, a teenager with a friendly smile, explained the rules while handing Lily 3 rings. Adam watched as she bit her lip in concentration, just like Sarah used to do when she was focused on something. The first ring clattered against the bottles and bounced off. The second went wide. But the third ring caught the neck of a green bottle and spun around it before settling. "We have a winner," the operator announced, and Lily's face broke into a genuine smile, the first one Adam had seen in weeks. The small purple unicorn Lily chose as her prize became their companion for the rest of the afternoon. She tucked it into the pocket of her dress, its head poking out as they explored the carnival. Something seemed to shift after that first win. Lily's steps became lighter, her eyes brighter. They tried the carousel next, Lily choosing a painted horse with a flowing golden mane. Adam stood beside her, one hand on her back as they went around and around, the world becoming a blur of colors and lights. He caught glimpses of her face as they spun, the way her mouth formed a perfect O of delight, how she leaned forward to pat the horse's neck as if it were real. The afternoon slipped away as they wandered from attraction to attraction. They shared a funnel cake, powdered sugar dusting their fingers and clothes. Lily insisted on trying the bumper cars, giggling every time they crashed into another vehicle. Adam found himself laughing too, the sound surprising him. He couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed like that. As the sun began to set, the carnival lights came on, transforming the fairground into a magical landscape of twinkling colors. "One more ride," Adam offered, and Lily pointed to the Ferris wheel without hesitation. The line wasn't too long, and soon they were seated in one of the swaying cars, rising above the carnival. Lily pressed her face against the safety bar, watching the ground fall away beneath them. At the top, they could see the whole town spread out before them, the street lights just beginning to flicker on. Mom would have loved this, Lily said quietly, and Adam felt his heart squeeze. Yeah, she would have, he agreed, pulling her close. She always loved high places. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the distant sounds of the carnival floating up to them. Can we come back tomorrow? Lily asked as their car began its descent. We'll see, Adam said, though he was already thinking about adjusting his work schedule. Seeing Lily like this, present, engaged, almost happy, made him realize how much they both needed this break from their grief. As they made their way toward the exit, weaving through the thinning crowd, a man stepped into their path. He was tall and well-dressed for a carnival, wearing a crisp button-down shirt that seemed at odds with the casual atmosphere. Excuse me, the man said, his smile warm and engaging. I couldn't help but notice this young lady's wonderful smile earlier. I run one of the game booths, and we're closing up for the night. I'd hate to see this guy go to waste. He held out a large teddy bear, its fur soft and brown, with a red bow around its neck. Adam's first instinct was to decline. He'd always been cautious about accepting things from strangers, even more so since becoming a single parent. But Lily's eyes had lit up at the sight of the bear, and the man's smile seemed genuine enough. That's very kind of you, Adam began, hesitating. Please? Lily whispered, tugging at his sleeve. It's so soft. The man held out the bear to Lily. It's really no trouble. We get new stock tomorrow anyway. Adam looked at his daughter's hopeful face and felt his resistance crumble. It had been such a good day. Why end it by disappointing her? What do we say, Lily? Thank you, she exclaimed, hugging the bear to her chest. Its head nearly reached her shoulder, and her small arms could barely wrap around its middle. You're very welcome, the man replied, giving them a small wave as he disappeared back into the crowd. As they walked to the car, Lily chattering happily about naming her new friend, Adam pushed away a nagging feeling of unease. He was probably just being overprotective, he told himself. Sometimes a kind gesture was just that kind. The drive home was quiet, Lily dozing in the back seat with both the unicorn and the bear nestled against her. Adam watched her in the rearview mirror, her face peaceful in sleep, and felt a surge of gratitude. For the first time in months, they'd had a normal day, just a father and daughter enjoying themselves, making new memories. He didn't know then that the memory of this day would soon take on a very different meaning. That the bear sitting innocently beside his sleeping daughter would become the catalyst for something that would change their lives forever. For now, though, he was simply thankful for the small miracle of his daughter's smile. That night, after tucking Lily into bed with her new teddy bear, Adam couldn't shake this strange feeling in his gut. He sat in his home office, mindlessly scrolling through work emails, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the carnival. The man's pressed shirt, his too perfect smile, the way he'd singled them out, it all felt off somehow. You're being ridiculous, he muttered to himself, running a hand through his hair. Sarah used to tease him about his overactive imagination. Not everything is a conspiracy, she'd say whenever he'd get worked up about some perceived threat. But Sarah wasn't here anymore, and being a single parent had amplified his protective instincts to almost painful levels. He tried to focus on the good parts of the day instead. Lily had come alive at the carnival in a way he hadn't seen since Sarah's passing. The sound of her laughter on the bumper cars still echoed in his mind, precious and rare. Even now, he could hear her talking softly in her room, probably telling stories to her new toys. Adam paused, his coffee mug halfway to his lips. It was nearly midnight. Lily should have been asleep hours ago. He set his mug down and walked quietly to her door, pushing it open just enough to peek inside. The nightlight cast a soft glow across the room, illuminating Lily sitting cross-legged on her bed. The teddy bear sat propped against her pillows, its glassy eyes reflecting the dim light. She was speaking to it in that serious way children sometimes talk to their toys, completely absorbed in whatever tale she was spinning. Lily, he said softly, it's way past bedtime, sweetheart. She looked up, not even slightly guilty about being caught awake. But Mr. Hugs was telling me about his adventures, Daddy. Mr. Hugs. Adam stepped into the room, smiling despite his lingering unease. That's what you decided to call him. He told me that's his name, Lily said matter-of-factly, patting the bear's head. He gives the best hugs, see? She wrapped her arms around the stuffed animal, burying her face in its soft fur. Something about the sight made Adam's skin prickle. The bear seemed too perfect, too new to be a carnival prize. Most game prizes were cheaply made, with obvious flaws, missing stitches, uneven stuffing, the kind of imperfections you'd expect. But Mr. Hugs looked like something you'd find in an expensive toy store. Time for sleep now, he said, helping Lily settle under the covers. She immediately pulled the bear close, curling around it like she used to do with her old baby blanket. The one she'd stopped sleeping with after Sarah died. Can Mr. Hugs come to school tomorrow? She asked, her eyes already heavy with sleep. Adam hesitated. The thought of the bear leaving the house made him inexplicably nervous. Let's keep him home for now, he said carefully. We wouldn't want him to get lost or dirty at school. Lily nodded, already drifting off. Adam stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her sleep. The bear's head poked out above the covers, its face turned slightly toward him. In the shadows, its friendly expression seemed almost knowing. Back in his office, Adam found himself opening his laptop again, this time typing carnival scams into the search bar. He spent the next hour reading about various schemes, rigged games, fake prizes, pickpockets working in crowds. Nothing quite matched the strange interaction they'd had, but the research did nothing to settle his nerves. He thought about going back to Lily's room and taking the bear, maybe examining it more closely. But what would he be looking for? And how would he explain to Lily why her new favorite toy had disappeared overnight? She'd been through enough trauma already. He couldn't bear the thought of causing her more distress over what was probably just his anxiety getting the better of him. The next few days settled into a new routine. Lily carried Mr. Hugs everywhere around the house, talking to him constantly in that sweet, serious way of hers. She'd prop him up at the breakfast table, save a spot for him on the couch during movie time, and even tried to take him into the bath until Adam drew the line at getting the bear wet. It should have been heartwarming seeing her so attached to something. After Sarah died, Lily had pushed away most of her toys, as if play itself reminded her too much of happier times. Her therapist had been concerned about it, suggesting Adam try to engage her with art or games. Nothing had worked until now, but there was something about the intensity of her attachment that nagged at him. She'd never bonded with a toy this quickly before, not even the special dolls Sarah had given her. And the things she said about Mr. Hugs sometimes made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Mr. Hugs says you look tired, Daddy, she told him one morning over breakfast, the bear sitting in its usual spot next to her cereal bowl. He thinks you should sleep more. Adam nearly dropped his coffee mug. He hadn't told Lily about his insomnia, hadn't wanted her to worry. But he had been sleeping poorly, spending hours staring at the ceiling, trying to quiet his racing thoughts. Mr. Hugs is very observant, he managed to say, studying his daughter's face. But Lily was already absorbed in telling the bear about her plans for the day, completely unaware of how her comment had affected him. Later that afternoon, while Lily was at her weekly art class, Adam found himself standing in her room, staring at Mr. Hugs. The bear sat perfectly positioned against her pillows, exactly where she'd left it. Something about its posture seemed almost too deliberate, as if it had arranged itself rather than being casually tossed there by a 7-year-old. This is crazy, he muttered, running his hands over his face. He was acting like one of those people who saw faces in toast or conspiracy theories in children's cartoons. It was just a stuffed animal, probably mass-produced in some factory alongside thousands of identical bears. But as he turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of something in the mirror. Just for a second, it looked like the bear's head had turned slightly to follow his movement. Adam spun around, heart pounding, but Mr. Hugs sat exactly as before, glassy eyes staring straight ahead. He forced himself to walk over and pick up the bear. Its fur was soft under his fingers, expensive feeling. He turned it over in his hands, examining every seam and stitch, looking for what? A manufacturer's label? A hidden compartment? There was nothing unusual about it, nothing to justify his growing paranoia. The sound of the front door opening made him jump. He quickly set the bear back in its spot and hurried downstairs to find his sister Katie helping Lily with her coat. Uncle Adam's getting jumpy in his old age, Katie teased when she saw his startled expression. She'd been helping with Lily's afternoon activities since Sarah died, refusing to take no for an answer when Adam had protested about imposing. "Just lost track of time," he said, forcing a smile. "How was art class, sweetheart?" "I drew Mr. Hugs," Lily announced, proudly holding up a crayon drawing. The bear dominated the page, drawn larger than the stick figures representing her and Adam. Something about the way she'd drawn its eyes, dark and intense, made Adam's stomach clench. Katie raised an eyebrow at him over Lily's head. "The famous Mr. Hugs? Lily hasn't stopped talking about him all week." "It was a carnival prize," Adam explained, trying to keep his voice casual. "One of the vendors gave it to her." "Gave it to her?" Katie's forehead wrinkled. "That's unusual." "He said I had a nice smile," Lily chimed in, already heading for the stairs. "I'm going to show Mr. Hugs my drawing." Katie waited until Lily was out of earshot before turning to Adam. "A stranger just gave her an expensive-looking teddy bear? And you were okay with that?" I know, Adam sighed, dropping onto the couch. "I've been second-guessing it all week. But you should have seen her face, Katie. She's been so withdrawn since Sarah. I just couldn't say no." His sister sat next to him, her expression softening. "Hey, I get it. You're doing your best. And it's probably nothing, just some guy being nice. But maybe we should be a little careful about this bear? At least check it over properly?" Adam nodded, relief flooding through him. He wasn't the only one who thought something felt off. Maybe he wasn't going crazy after all. But before he could reply, Lily's voice floated down from upstairs, followed by a sound that made both adults freeze. A quiet, mechanical beep, so faint they might have imagined it. "Did you hear that?" Katie whispered. Adam was already on his feet, his heart pounding in his ears. But by the time they reached Lily's room, there was only silence, and Mr. Hugs sat exactly where he always did, its glassy eyes reflecting the afternoon sunlight, giving no hint of the questions that now burned in Adam's mind. Adam couldn't sleep. After Katie left, he'd spent the evening going through the motions of their normal routine: dinner, homework, bath time, all while straining his ears for any unusual sounds. But the house had remained stubbornly silent, making him question whether they'd actually heard anything at all. Now, at just past midnight, he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying every detail of the past few days. The carnival seemed like a lifetime ago, though barely a week had passed. He thought about the man's clothes again, that crisp button-down shirt that had seemed so out of place. Why hadn't he questioned it more at the time? His phone buzzed on the nightstand, making him jump. It was a text from Katie. "Did you check the bears?" He hadn't. After the mysterious beep, Lily had been so excited to show him her drawing that he couldn't bring himself to disturb her happiness. She'd fallen asleep clutching Mr. Hugs, as usual, and he didn't have the heart to wake her. "Tomorrow," he texted back, knowing his sister would give him grief about it. Katie had always been the more practical one, even when they were kids. She would have checked the bear immediately, regardless of hurt feelings. He was about to put his phone down when he heard it, a faint electronic chirp, barely audible but distinctly mechanical. Adam sat up, his heart hammering. The sound had come from down the hall, from Lily's room. For a moment, he sat frozen, straining to hear more. The house creaked and settled around him, familiar nighttime sounds that he usually ignored. But there, another chirp, so quiet he might have missed it if he hadn't been listening so intently. Adam slid out of bed, his bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The hallway seemed longer than usual, shadows stretching in the dim light from the bathroom nightlight. Lily's door was cracked open, just as he'd left it after tucking her in. He peered inside, careful not to let the door creak. Lily was sprawled across her bed, one arm flung out, the other still wrapped around Mr. Hugs. In the pale moonlight filtering through her curtains, the bear's fur looked almost silver. Another chirp, definitely coming from inside the room. Adam's eyes locked onto the bear. In the darkness, its friendly expression seemed more like a smirk. He took a step into the room, then another. Lily stirred slightly, but didn't wake. The carpet muffled his footsteps as he approached the bed, his hands clammy with sweat. Just as he reached for the bear, the sound came again, but this time, he was close enough to be certain. The noise was coming from inside Mr. Hugs. Adam's fingers froze inches from the bear's fur. His mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. A recording device? A tracker? Both. He thought about all the conversations Lily had had with the bear, all the things she might have innocently shared while thinking she was just playing with a toy. Lily shifted in her sleep, mumbling something unintelligible. Adam pulled his hand back, his heart racing. He couldn't do this now, couldn't risk waking her. Whatever was inside that bear, he needed to handle this carefully. If Lily woke up and saw him apparently attacking her beloved Mr. Hugs, it would only add to her trauma. Back in the hallway, Adam leaned against the wall, trying to steady his breathing. The chirping had stopped, but his mind was spinning with implications. He needed help, needed someone to tell him he wasn't losing his mind. His fingers found Katie's number in his phone before he could think better of it. "Do you know what time it is?" His sister's groggy voice answered. "I heard it again," he whispered, moving further down the hall. The beeping sound. "It's coming from inside the bear. Katie." There was a rustling sound. Then Katie's voice came back clearer, more alert. "Are you sure?" "Positive. I was right next to it. There's something in there, something electronic." "Okay." He could hear her taking charge, shifting into problem-solving mode. "Okay, don't panic. We need to think this through. Can you get the bear away from Lily?" Adam glanced back toward his daughter's room. "Not right now. She's sleeping with it like always. And if she wakes up and it's gone..." "Right," Katie sighed. "She's been through enough. Listen, I can come over first thing tomorrow. We'll figure out a way to check the bear while she's at school. What if?" Adam swallowed hard. What if someone's listening? Right now? The silence on the other end of the line stretched for a moment. Then they're hearing two concerned adults having a late-night conversation. Katie finally said, her voice firm. "Nothing suspicious about that. But Adam? Don't say anything specific, just in case." He nodded, though she couldn't see him. "Thanks, Katie. I'm sorry I woke you. That's what sisters are for. Try to get some sleep, okay? We'll deal with this in the morning." But sleep felt impossible now. Adam spent the rest of the night in the hallway, sitting with his back against the wall between his room and Lily's. Every few hours, he heard that quiet chirp. Sometimes it was followed by a soft whirring sound, like a camera lens adjusting. He thought about all the times Lily had carried Mr. Hugs around the house. Had someone been watching them, learning their routines? The bear had been in the kitchen during breakfast, in the living room during movie time, even in the bathroom until he'd stopped Lily from taking it into the tub. The sky was just beginning to lighten when Lily's alarm clock went off. Adam hurried back to his room, not wanting her to find him in the hallway. He listened to her morning routine, the familiar sounds of her getting dressed, brushing her teeth, talking to Mr. Hugs the whole time. "Daddy looks really tired today," he heard her tell the bear at breakfast. Maybe he had bad dreams. Adam focused on keeping his hands steady as he poured her cereal. The bear sat in its usual spot, watching him with those glass eyes. Had they always looked so artificial? So calculating? "Mr. Hugs will have to stay home today," he said, trying to sound casual. "Remember? We talked about not taking him to school." Lily's face fell slightly, but she nodded. "He understands. He says he'll keep my room safe while I'm gone." A chill ran down Adam's spine at her words. The way she said it, not like a child playing pretend, but like she was repeating something she'd been told. He was suddenly very aware of the bear's presence, of its position facing the kitchen table, of all the things it might have seen and heard. The drive to school felt endless. Adam kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the bear somehow in the back seat. But Lily chattered away about her upcoming spelling test, seemingly unaffected by Mr. Hugs' absence. As he watched her walk into the school building, Adam's hands tightened on the steering wheel. In a few minutes, Katie would arrive at the house. They would examine the bear, find out what was hidden inside it. But first, he needed to make a stop. The hardware store had just opened when he pulled into the parking lot. Adam walked straight to the tool aisle, his mind made up. Whatever they found inside Mr. Hugs, he wanted to be prepared. 10 minutes later, he was driving home with a new set of precision tools and a grim determination. The bear was waiting exactly where Lily had left it, perched on her bed like a silent sentinel. But now, in the morning light, Adam could have sworn its smile looked more like a challenge. Katie arrived just as Adam was laying out the tools on the kitchen table. She took one look at the array of precision screwdrivers and scissors and raised her eyebrows. "Planning surgery?" she asked, setting down her purse. "I want to be careful," Adam replied, his hands hovering over the tools. "If there really is something in there, we might need to put it back together." For Lily's sake, Katie nodded, understanding. "Where is it?" "Still in her room." I couldn't bring myself to touch it yet." They walked upstairs together, both unusually quiet. Mr. Huggs sat on Lily's bed, looking deceptively innocent in the morning light. Katie approached it first, picking it up with the careful attention of someone handling evidence. "It's heavier than it should be," she said immediately, turning the bear over in her hands. "And there's definitely something solid in here. Feel this." She pressed her fingers against a spot on the bear's back. Adam touched the area she indicated. Through the soft fur and stuffing, he could feel something hard and rectangular. How had he not noticed this before? But then, he'd been careful not to examine the bear too closely when Lily was around, and she rarely let it out of her sight. "Let's take it downstairs," Katie suggested. "Better light in the kitchen." They set Mr. Huggs on the kitchen table, and Adam couldn't shake the feeling that the bear was watching them. Katie's methodical approach helped ground him. She examined every seam, every joint, looking for the least destructive way to access what was hidden inside. "Here," she said finally, pointing to a nearly invisible line in the fur along the bear's back. "This seems different from the others. Newer, maybe. And look how it lines up with that hard spot we felt." Adam leaned in closer. The stitching was slightly different there, the thread a shade lighter than the rest. He picked up the smallest pair of scissors, his hands steady despite his racing heart. "Wait," Katie said, grabbing her phone. "Let me take pictures first. Document everything." She photographed the bear from every angle, paying special attention to the suspicious seam. Adam watched, impressed despite his anxiety. Katie had always been the methodical one in the family. It made her an excellent nurse and, right now, an invaluable ally. "Okay," she said finally, setting her phone down. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Adam began carefully snipping the threads, one at a time. The seam was about 6 inches long, and as it opened, he could see something dark nestled among the white stuffing. Katie held the bear steady while he worked, neither of them speaking. The final stitch gave way, and Adam gently parted the fur. Inside, partially wrapped in stuffing, was a black plastic device about the size of a credit card. A small red light blinked steadily in one corner. "Oh God," Katie breathed. Adam felt like he might be sick. All this time, while Lily slept with the bear, while she told her secrets, while she carried it around their home, someone had been watching, listening. The blinking light seemed to mock him, a steady pulse saying, "We're here, we're here, we're here." Using tweezers from his new toolkit, Adam carefully extracted the device. It was surprisingly sophisticated, not some cheap spy gadget from the internet, but something that looked professionally made. One side had what appeared to be a camera lens, while the other housed a series of small microphones. "There's more," Katie said, her fingers probing the opening. She pulled out a second device, smaller than the first. This one had an antenna and what looked like a GPS module. They laid the components on the table, the cheerful morning sunlight making them look strangely ordinary. Adam's mind was spinning with questions. Who was watching them? What did they want? How many other families had been given similar gifts? "We need to call the police," Katie said firmly, already reaching for her phone. "Wait." Adam grabbed her wrist. "We need to think this through. If we call them now, they'll take the bear as evidence. How do we explain that to Lily?" "Adam," Katie's voice was gentle but firm. "Honey, that's exactly why we need to call them. Someone is targeting your daughter. We can't worry about her feelings about a teddy bear right now." She was right, of course. But all Adam could think about was Lily's face when she got home from school, how devastated she'd be to find Mr. Huggs gone. After everything she'd been through with losing Sarah, "Give me today," he said finally. "Let me figure out how to tell her. I'll pick her up from school, take her for ice cream or something, try to prepare her. Then we can call them." Katie looked like she wanted to argue, but something in his face must have convinced her. "Okay," she sighed. "But I'm staying here. And we're taking pictures of everything, the devices, the bear, where we found them. The police will need all of that." Adam nodded, already dreading the conversation ahead. How do you tell a 7-year-old that her favorite toy was actually a tool for strangers to spy on her? That the comfort she'd found in Mr. Hugs was built on a lie? They spent the next hour documenting everything. Katie's nursing training came in handy. She photographed the devices from every angle, made detailed notes about their location in the bear, even recorded the exact time they'd found each component. Adam watched her work, grateful for her calm efficiency. "We should put it back together," he said finally, looking at the bear lying split open on the table. "Just for now. So, it looks normal when Lily gets home." Katie helped him carefully reposition the stuffing and devices, then held the seam together while he made a few temporary stitches. When they were done, Mr. Hugs looked almost the same as before. Almost, but now Adam could see all the signs he'd missed. The slightly rigid back, the too perfect positioning, the way the head seemed weighted to always face forward. "What kind of person does this?" he asked, more to himself than Katie. "Who looks at a grieving child and sees an opportunity?" Katie didn't answer, but she squeezed his shoulder. They both jumped at a sudden chirp from inside the bear, that same sound that had woken Adam in the night. Now, knowing what it meant, it seemed infinitely more sinister. "I'll stay here while you get Lily," Katie said. "Keep an eye on things." She gestured at the bear, neither of them wanting to say what they were really worried about, that whoever was watching might realize they'd been discovered. Adam glanced at the clock. 3 hours until school let out. 3 hours to figure out how to tell his daughter that the first thing to make her happy since her mother's death was actually a threat. 3 hours to prepare himself for the look in her eyes when she realized that even Mr. Hugs, like so many things in her young life, wasn't what he seemed. The bear sat on the table, its glass eyes reflecting the morning sun, its smile now seeming less friendly and more predatory. Adam turned it to face the wall, unable to shake the feeling that somewhere, someone was watching this small act of defiance through the hidden lens. The drive to Lily's school felt like navigating through a nightmare. Adam's mind kept jumping between the hidden devices and his daughter's innocent face, between the blinking red light and her delighted smile when she'd first received the bear. Each memory now carried a darker shadow, tainted by what they discovered. He pulled into the school parking lot 20 minutes early, killed the engine, and called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher's voice was professionally neutral as he explained the situation, but he caught the slight intake of breath when he mentioned the tracking device. "An officer will meet you at your home in an hour, sir," she said. "Please don't remove anything else from the device, and try not to handle it more than necessary." Adam watched parents start to gather near the school entrance, their normal afternoon routines suddenly seeming surreal. How many other families had been targeted? How many other children were hugging compromised toys, sharing their secrets with hidden listeners? His phone buzzed, a text from Katie. "Something's changed. The red light is blinking faster." His stomach dropped. Had they triggered something when they opened the bear? Or worse, had whoever was watching realized they'd been discovered? He typed back with shaking fingers, "Don't touch anything else." Police coming in an hour. The school bell rang, and children began pouring out of the building. Adam spotted Lily in her blue backpack, chatting with a friend. She looked so normal, so safe in this everyday moment. His throat tightened as she bounded over to the car, her smile wide and innocent. "Daddy, you're early." She climbed into the back seat, already launching into a story about her day. "We had art class again, and Miss Peters said my drawing was really good, and I can't wait to show Mr. Hugs because I drew another picture of him and—" "Sweetheart," Adam interrupted gently, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror. "We need to talk about something important." Lily's smile faltered slightly. She'd heard that tone before, just before he'd told her about her mother. "Is it about Mr. Hugs? Is he sick?" The childish question nearly broke him. "No, honey. But We discovered something about Mr. Hugs today. Something not good. And some police officers are going to come to our house to help us with it. Police officers? Her voice went small. Did Mr. Hugs do something bad? Adam pulled into a parking spot at the ice cream shop they sometimes visited after school. He turned in his seat to face her properly.
No, baby.
Mr. Hugs didn't do anything, but some bad people put something inside him that they shouldn't have. Something that lets them watch us and listen to us without us knowing. Lily's face scrunched up in confusion. Like a camera? Yes, exactly like a camera. And that's not okay. No one should watch us in our house without us knowing. He watched her process this, saw the moment understanding began to dawn in her eyes. They heard everything, she whispered. All my secrets? Even when I talk about mommy? Adam's heart shattered. He unbuckled his seatbelt and climbed into the back seat, pulling Lily into his arms. She came willingly, burying her face in his shirt like she used to do as a toddler. I'm so sorry, he murmured into her hair. I'm so sorry I didn't check sooner. But we're going to fix this. The police will help us, and those bad people won't be able to watch us anymore. But Mr. Hugs was my friend, she said, her voice muffled against his chest. He listened to me when I was sad about mommy. Adam held her tighter, feeling her small body shake with silent sobs. How much more could one child lose? First her mother, and now this betrayal of her trust. He should have known better, should have protected her better. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. Katie, police are here. Where are you? We need to go home now, he told Lily gently. The police officers want to talk to us, and Aunt Katie is waiting too. But first, he pulled back slightly, wiping tears from her cheeks. Would you like some ice cream? I think this is definitely an ice cream kind of day. Lily nodded, managing a wobbly smile. While they waited in line, she held his hand tight, something she hadn't done in weeks. Since Mr. Hugs arrived, he realized with a fresh wave of anger. The bear had been designed to drive a wedge between them, to make Lily trust it more than her own father. Back in the car, ice cream finished, Lily asked in a small voice, will they take Mr. Hugs away? Yes, honey. They need to take him to help catch the bad people. But you know what? We can get you a new bear. Anyone you want. She shook her head. I don't want another bear. After a pause, she added, can I sleep in your room tonight? Of course you can. The police cars were still in their driveway when they arrived home. Two officers stood talking to Katie in the front yard, while another appeared to be taking photos through the windows. Adam saw Lily shrink in her seat at the sight. It's okay, he assured her. They're here to help us. Inside, the kitchen had been transformed into something like a crime scene. The bear lay on the table, surrounded by evidence markers and photography equipment. A female officer approached them, crouching down to Lily's level. Hi there, she said warmly. You must be Lily. I'm Officer Sarah. Adam felt Lily tense at the name, but she managed a tiny nod. Your dad and Aunt told us about your bear, Officer Sarah continued. You're being very brave. Can you tell me about the man who gave him to you? While Lily described the stranger from the carnival, another officer pulled Adam aside. Sir, we've seen cases like this before. There's an organized group targeting single parents, especially those with recent losses. They look for vulnerable families, make contact at public events. Adam felt sick. How many? In this area? This is the third case this month. But the devices we're seeing here are more sophisticated than the others. More expensive. They weren't just watching, they were gathering information, learning routines, habits, vulnerabilities. Through the kitchen doorway, Adam could see Lily sitting with Officer Sarah, drawing a picture of the man from the carnival. She looked so small surrounded by all the police activity, but her voice was steady as she described his clothes, his smile, the way he'd singled them out. Katie appeared at his elbow, her face grim. They found a microphone in the bow tied too, and some kind of transmitter in one of the eyes. They think someone's been watching in real time. The implications hit Adam like a physical blow. All those nights Lily had slept with the bear. All those private moments. All those conversations about their routines, their security system, the times they'd be away from home. They'd handed a stranger the perfect way to map their entire lives. "We'll need to move," he said suddenly, the thought crystallizing. "Even after they take the bear. They know too much about us, about our patterns." Katie nodded. "You can stay with me until you find a new place. Both of you." Across the room, Lily had finished her drawing. Officer Sarah was praising her attention to detail, but Adam could see his daughter's eyes fixed on Mr. Huggs as another officer carefully placed the bear in an evidence bag. The betrayal in her expression made his hands curl into fists. They targeted his daughter's grief, used her loss to try to hurt her even more. As he watched the bear disappear into the evidence bag, its glass eyes seeming to mock him one final time, Adam made a silent promise. They would move, they would change their routines, they would do whatever it took. But more importantly, he would make sure Lily felt safe again, even if it took the rest of his life. The bear might have been watching, but now they were being watched too. And Adam intended to make sure they regretted ever laying eyes on his family. The police stayed until well after dark. They photographed every room where the bear had been, took statements from both Adam and Katie, and gathered all of Lily's drawings of Mr. Huggs, both the happy ones she'd made when she first got him and the detailed sketch of the stranger she'd drawn today. Each piece of paper disappeared into labeled evidence bags, transforming innocent crayon drawings into potential criminal evidence. Detective Martinez arrived around dinner time, her badge hanging from a chain around her neck. Unlike the uniformed officers, she wore plain clothes, dark jeans, and a navy blazer that somehow made her look both approachable and authoritative. She took one look at Lily curled up on the couch, clutching her old baby blanket, and suggested they talk in the kitchen. "I'll be straight with you," she said once they were seated at the table. The evidence markers were gone, but Adam could still see where they'd been. "This bears all the hallmarks of a trafficking operation we've been tracking. They're sophisticated, well-funded, and they specifically target families like yours." "Like ours?" Adam's voice came out rougher than he intended. Single parents, recent losses, children still adjusting to trauma. Martinez's eyes were compassionate, but direct. They look for kids who are emotionally vulnerable, who might be seeking connection or comfort. The bear wasn't random. They probably watched you at the carnival for a while before approaching. The thought made Adam's skin crawl. How long had they been watched before the bear? How many other families were being watched right now? "The devices we found are high-end," Martinez continued, spreading photographs across the table. "Military grade, actually. The GPS tracker could pinpoint your daughter's location within 3 feet. The audio quality is broadcast level. They could probably hear conversations from across the room. And the camera..." She paused, tapping one of the photos. The camera had night vision capabilities. Adam pushed back from the table abruptly, fighting the urge to be sick. All those nights Lily had slept with the bear, all those private moments. "We'll need to check your computers," Martinez said gently. "And phones. Sometimes these devices can connect to local Wi-Fi networks, access other electronics. They might have gotten into your home security system." "Everything," Adam said immediately. "Check everything. I want to know exactly what they know about us." Katie appeared in the doorway. "Lily's asking for you," she said softly. "She's getting tired, but doesn't want to go to her room." "She can sleep in my room tonight," Adam replied, already standing. "Actually, we both might stay at your place for a few days, if that's okay?" "Of course. I already made up the guest room and the sofa bed." Martinez nodded approvingly. "That's smart. We'll need to process the house anyway, check for any other surveillance equipment they might have planted. And Mr. Taylor." She waited until Adam met her eyes. "We'll find them. This isn't their first attempt, but I'm going to do everything I can to make it their last." Lily was barely awake when Adam returned to the living room. He scooped her up, blanket and all, remembering when she used to fall asleep like this every night. Before Sarah died, before Mr. Huggs, before everything got so complicated. "I don't want to go to my room," she mumbled against his shoulder. "We're not going to your room, sweetheart. We're going to stay at Aunt Katie's house for a few days. Like a little vacation." "Because of the bad people?" Adam hesitated, but Detective Martinez had stressed the importance of age-appropriate honesty. "Yes, honey. Just until the police make sure our house is safe." "Will they catch them?" Her voice was small but determined. The people who made Mr. Hugs bad? They're going to try very hard. Detective Martinez is very good at her job. While Katie packed some overnight bags for them, Adam sat with Lily on the couch, letting her doze against him. Martinez and her team moved quietly through the house, their cameras flashing occasionally as they documented everything. He caught fragments of their conversations, something about signal ranges, wireless networks, digital footprints. One of the tech analysts stopped to show Martinez something on his laptop. Adam couldn't see the screen, but the detective's expression darkened. She caught his eye and made a subtle gesture toward Lily, then shook her head. Whatever they'd found, it would have to wait until his daughter wasn't around to hear it. Mr. Taylor? A younger officer approached, holding a clipboard. We need to go through a timeline. When exactly did you first notice anything unusual about the bear? Adam thought back, trying to separate his current knowledge from his initial suspicions. The beeping started about a week ago, but before that, he described the bear's weight, the too perfect appearance, the strange way it always seemed to be positioned facing into rooms. And the man at the carnival, you said he was well-dressed? Yeah, like he didn't fit in. Button-down shirt, pressed slacks. At a carnival, the memory shifted in his mind, taking on new significance. He wasn't working any of the game booths, was he? He said he was, but I never saw him before or after. The officer made notes, nodding. We're pulling security footage from the carnival. If he was there all day, we'll find him. I should have known, Adam said quietly, more to himself than the officer. A stranger giving away an expensive toy? I should have realized something was wrong.
Hey,
Martinez had appeared beside them.
don't do that to yourself.
These people are professionals. They know exactly how to appear harmless, how to use a child's excitement and a parent's desire to see their kid happy. You're not the first good parent they've fooled. But Adam couldn't help thinking about every moment since they'd gotten the bear. Every time Lily had carried it to the bathroom while she brushed her teeth, chattering about her day. Every time she'd propped it up at the dinner table. Every time she'd fallen asleep with it watching over her. We need to sweep the rest of the house, Martinez said gently. And I'd feel better if you and Lily weren't here tonight. We've seen cases where they try to retrieve their equipment when they realize they've been discovered. That got Adam moving. Within 20 minutes, they had bags packed and were heading to Katie's car. As they pulled out of the driveway, Adam watched the police lights painting their home in alternating red and blue. Lily was already asleep in the back seat, her baby blanket clutched tight. Martinez is good, Katie said quietly as she drove. She handled that case last year, the one with the daycare center? She'll find them. Adam nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. They'd need to move, change their routines, maybe even switch Lily to a different school. Everything in their lives would have to change because some stranger had decided they were vulnerable, had seen their grief as an opportunity. In the back seat, Lily stirred slightly. Daddy, she mumbled. I dreamed Mr. Hugs said he was sorry. Adam reached back to squeeze her hand, fighting back tears. It's okay, baby. Go back to sleep. I've got you. And he did. Whatever came next, whatever changes they had to make, he would make sure she felt safe again. The bad people might have taken her trust, but they wouldn't take anything else. Not her security, not her chance to heal, and definitely not her father's determination to protect her. Katie's guest room felt both safe and strange. Adam lay awake on the sofa bed, listening to Lily's steady breathing from the room next door. The door was cracked open, she'd insisted, and every few minutes he found himself getting up to check on her, just to make sure she was still there. Sleep seemed impossible. Every car that passed outside, every creak of the building settling, every distant siren made him tense. His phone sat silent on the coffee table, but he kept checking it anyway, waiting for updates from Detective Martinez. The first night had been the hardest. Lily had woken up crying twice, disoriented in the unfamiliar room. Both times, she'd asked for Mr. Hugs before remembering, and the way her face crumpled made Adam want to break something. Instead, he'd held her until she fell back asleep, singing Sarah's old lullabies off-key. Morning brought no relief. Getting Lily ready for school felt like preparing for battle. Adam checked and rechecked her backpack, walked the perimeter of Katie's apartment building, and spent 10 minutes studying every car in the parking lot. "You can't keep her home forever," Katie said gently, watching him hover by the window. "The police said it's safe for her to go to school." "They also said her house was safe," Adam snapped, then immediately regretted it.
Sorry.
I keep thinking about how long we were watched. How much they know about her schedule. The drive to school took twice as long as usual. Adam kept checking his mirrors, looking for cars that might be following them. Every red light felt like an eternity of vulnerability. He pulled into the school parking lot 20 minutes early, joining the small group of parents who waited to walk their kids to the door. "Remember what we talked about?" he asked Lily, kneeling to adjust her backpack straps. She nodded solemnly. "Stay with my teachers. Don't talk to strangers. Don't go anywhere alone. And if anyone tries to give you anything, say no thank you and find a grown-up I trust." She recited the words like a well-practiced script, but her eyes kept darting around the playground, as if expecting to see the carnival stranger lurking behind every bush. Adam watched until she disappeared into the building, then spent another 10 minutes scanning the area around the school. He noticed other parents doing the same. Martinez had mentioned calling the school, warning them about potential surveillance. Now, every adult on the premises seemed to be on high alert. Back at Katie's apartment, he tried to work. His laptop felt suspect now. The tech team had cleared it, found no signs of interference from the Bears' devices, but Adam couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He kept the screen angled toward the wall, paranoid about webcams and reflections. A knock at the door made him jump. Katie appeared from her room, already reaching for the baseball bat she'd started keeping by the couch. But it was just Martinez, looking tired but determined. "We found something," she said without preamble, spreading photos across Katie's coffee table. "Security footage from the carnival. Your guy shows up on multiple cameras, but look at this." She pointed to a shot of the parking lot. He arrived with others. They were watching several families that day. Adam studied the grainy images. The man who'd given Lily the bear was talking to two other well-dressed individuals, all of them focused on something beyond the camera's view. With a chill, he realized they were watching the carnival entrance, studying each family as they arrived. "How long?" he managed to ask. "How long were they watching us before they approached?" "Hours," Martinez admitted. "They're patient. They wait for specific signs, kids who seem withdrawn, parents who look overwhelmed. They're good at spotting vulnerability." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Mr. Taylor, we think they might have known about your wife." The room seemed to tilt sideways.
How?
"They research their targets, public records, obituaries, social media. They look for families in transition, especially those dealing with loss. It makes the children more receptive to comfort objects, makes the parents more likely to accept what seems like a kind gesture." Adam thought he might be sick. They'd used Sarah's death, used his daughter's grief, to get close to them. Had probably watched them visit the cemetery, tracked their therapy appointments, monitored their slow attempts to rebuild their lives. "There's more," Martinez continued. "The devices in the bear, they weren't just recording. They were transmitting. Live feeds, going somewhere offshore. We're trying to trace the signal. But they were watching in real time," Adam finished. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Every bedtime story, every private conversation, every moment they thought they were alone, someone had been there, watching, listening, learning. His phone buzzed, a text from Lily's teacher. His heart stopped until he read it. "Lily's doing fine. Wanted you to know she's safe and participating in class." Martinez noticed his reaction. "We have officers watching the school. Unmarked cars, plain clothes. They know what to look for." But it wasn't enough. Nothing felt like enough anymore. Adam spent the rest of the day pacing Katie's apartment, jumping at every sound. He studied every person who entered the building, memorized license plates in the parking lot, checked and rechecked the locks. When it was time to pick up Lily, he arrived 45 minutes early. The school security guard nodded to him. They all knew the situation now. All watched for unfamiliar faces. Adam caught himself studying the other parents, wondering if any of them were going through the same thing. How many other bears were out there, watching, listening, waiting? Lily emerged from school clutching a new drawing. Ms. Peters helped me make a happiness jar, she explained on the drive home. For when I miss, for when I'm sad. The paper jar was covered in bright colors and glitter, with little notes tucked inside. Adam recognized the art therapy technique. They'd tried something similar after Sarah died. But now, even this innocent craft made him uneasy. How much did her teachers know? How many people were watching his daughter, marking her pain, noting her attempts to heal? Back at Katie's, he found himself doing another perimeter check before letting Lily out of the car. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot, and everyone seemed to hide a potential threat. A neighbor waved from their balcony, and Adam had to force himself not to hurry Lily inside. "When can we go home?" she asked over dinner, pushing pasta around her plate. "Soon," he promised, but they both knew it wasn't true. Home didn't feel safe anymore. Nowhere did. The world had shifted on its axis, and Adam wasn't sure it would ever right itself again. That night, after Lily was asleep, he sat in the dark living room with his laptop, researching security systems, self-defense classes, background check services. On the screen, real estate listings for other cities glowed like possibilities. Maybe they needed more than new locks. Maybe they needed a fresh start, somewhere far from carnivals and strangers bearing gifts. But as he clicked through photos of distant homes, Adam knew the truth. No matter where they went, he would always be looking over his shoulder now, always wondering who might be watching, waiting, planning. The bear was gone, but the fear it planted would take much longer to remove. The call came on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after they'd discovered the devices in Mr. Hugg's. Adam was helping Lily pack her lunch when his phone rang, Martinez's number lighting up the screen. He stepped into Katie's bedroom to take the call, his heart racing. "We got them," Martinez said without preamble. "Early morning raid. Multiple locations. Your carnival friend and his associates won't be approaching any more families." Adam sank onto Katie's bed, his legs suddenly weak. "All of them. The local cell, yes. We found a warehouse full of supplies, bears, dolls, all sorts of toys rigged with similar devices. They were planning something big for the state fair, next month." She paused. "Mr. Taylor, the information from your case was crucial. The trackers in that bear led us to their base of operations." Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by a new wave of anxiety. Is Lily safe now?" "As safe as we can make her. We'll need you both to testify eventually, but that's months away. For now, you can start thinking about going home. We've swept your house again, it's clean. Home." The word felt strange now, loaded with both longing and fear. They hadn't been back since that night, surviving on clothes Katie had grabbed and items bought to replace what they'd left behind. Lily hadn't even asked about going home lately, as if she'd accepted their exile as permanent. "There's something else," Martinez continued. "We found their files. They had information on dozens of families, but yours. They'd been watching you for months before the carnival. Since your wife's obituary appeared in the local paper." Adam closed his eyes, remembering all the times he'd felt watched that spring. All the moments he dismissed his paranoia as grief playing tricks on him. "Why us?" "You fit their profile perfectly. Single parent, young child, recent trauma. They look for families in transition when normal security routines might be disrupted. They noticed how Lily withdrew after your wife's death, how she stopped carrying her old comfort objects. They knew she'd be receptive to a new one. The calculated cruelty of it staggered him. They'd weaponized his daughter's grief, turned her healing process into a vulnerability to exploit. The good news," Martinez added, her voice gentler now, "is that we found no evidence they were planning to move on you immediately. The surveillance was long-term, gathering intel for future use. By finding the devices when you did, you prevented anything worse from happening." But worse was relative, wasn't it? The bear might not have been the endgame, but it had still stolen something precious. Lily's sense of security, her ability to trust simple kindness. How long would it take to rebuild that? When Adam emerged from the bedroom, Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, carefully decorating her lunch bag with stickers. She looked up at him, and something in his expression must have given him away. "Did they catch the bad people?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Adam sat down beside her, marveling at her resilience. "Yes, honey. Detective Martinez and her team found them. They won't be able to hurt anyone else. Lily nodded, processing this. Can we go home now?
Soon.
Maybe this weekend, if you feel ready. He watched her face carefully. We can get new furniture for your room if you want. Change things around. She thought about this, adding another sticker to her lunch bag. I want my old stuff, she said finally. But maybe we can put it in different places. So it looks new but feels the same? We can do that. Adam pulled her into a hug, feeling her small arms wrap around his neck. Whatever you need, sweetheart. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. They hired a cleaning service to deep clean the house, replaced all the locks, and installed a state-of-the-art security system. Katie helped them rearrange Lily's room, turning her bed to face the window instead of the door, creating a cozy reading nook in the corner that used to hold her toy chest. The night before they were due to move back home, Lily had a nightmare. Adam found her in the guest room, clutching her baby blanket, tears streaming down her face. I dreamed they gave me another bear, she whispered when he gathered her into his arms. But this time I knew it was bad, and I still took it. It's okay, he soothed, rocking her gently. It's normal to have scary dreams after scary things happen. But you're safe now. I've got you. I don't want any more toys from strangers, she said fiercely. Even if they look nice. No more stranger toys, Adam agreed. But you know what? There's a toy store downtown where we can pick out anything you want. We can see exactly where it comes from. Their first night back in the house felt strange and familiar at once. Every room had been cleaned and rearranged, old furniture in new positions creating fresh sight lines and angles. The security system's small green lights blinked steadily, monitoring every window and door. Lily walked through each room slowly, relearning the space. She paused in front of the shelf where Mr. Hugs used to sit, but didn't mention the bear. Instead, she arranged her stuffed unicorn from the carnival in its place, the one she'd won herself at the ring toss, before everything changed. That night, she asked to sleep in her own room. Adam helped her arrange her blankets and stuffed animals, checked the nightlight, and left the door open just enough. He sat in the hallway for hours, listening to her breathe, ready to chase away any nightmares that might come. But Lily slept peacefully, and when morning came, she seemed lighter somehow. Over breakfast, she asked if they could plant flowers in the backyard to make it more colorful. Adam caught Katie's eye over Lily's head, recognizing this small sign of healing, the desire to make something new and beautiful in a place that had held fear. The world wasn't safe, not really. Adam knew that now better than ever. But as he watched Lily plot out her garden, pointing to spots where she wanted to plant sunflowers and daisies, he realized that safety wasn't about eliminating every threat. It was about building something stronger than fear. They would be vigilant, yes, careful about strangers, mindful of gifts, aware of their surroundings. But they would also plant flowers, rearrange furniture, create new memories in old spaces. They would learn to trust again, carefully and wisely, but not let fear steal their ability to see good in the world. Mr. Hugs was gone, but he hadn't taken everything. In his attempt to hurt them, he taught them something valuable, that they were stronger together, that love could overcome fear, and that even after the darkest revelations, there was still room for light to grow. As autumn turned to winter, the security cameras watched over their house, but they also captured new moments. Lily learning to ride her bike without training wheels, impromptu dance parties in the kitchen, Katie teaching her to bake cookies like Sarah used to make. Life went on, different but determined, healing not despite the scars, but because of what they'd learned in earning them. And if Adam still checked the locks twice each night, if he still studied strangers a bit too long, if he still kept one eye on the shadows, well, that was the price of wisdom. But it wasn't the whole story anymore. Not even close.
Disclaimer: this channel does not support or tolerate any form of discrimination, racism, prejudice, or violation of human rights. The stories presented here are original and created by the author with the aim of promoting reflection, awareness, and dialogue. All content is developed with respect for diversity and the dignity of all people.